be talking about Eva Bartlett. So Eva Bartlett is an independent journalist. She's done great work on Syria. She's done great work on the COVID stuff as well. Debunking a lot of the and she's Canadian as well, so debunking a lot of the mainstream bullshit when it came to the to Canada's authoritarian COVID policies and the whole Canadian trucker thing where they were calling everybody that was involved with that protest, they called a fucking Nazi. And it's like, you guys are literally okay with funding Nazis in Ukraine, though. It's the funny part. But she's actually over in Donbass right now, reporting from there. So that's why I posted her Telegram there as well, because she's like been posting videos and all that shit from there. So she's dope. Eva Bartlett is dope. But apparently she's been on a kill list in Ukraine. So there's been, a list, a slew of, journalists, even just politicians that want to negotiate peace that have like been getting, ghosted, kidnapped, all types of crazy shit going on over there. And apparently it's been found out there's like this website where a list of journalists' names, their names are in there that are critical of the Kiev regime, and they mysteriously get killed or disappeared or all types of crazy shit. So Eva Bartlett is going to be talking about that. So let me go ahead and pull up the article where she is talking about that. Give me 1 second to pull that up.
I did to say that Eva Bartlett.
Again, my stream may get pulled down because it's RT. RT is persona non grata in the world right now, but y'all already know I'm a real nigga, so fuck it. We're going to go ahead and watch this shit. Let's get into it.
Herself joins the program to explain what she's been going through. Eva, welcome. As I just mentioned, some say Miro Tvorets is a kill list with those on the side targeted by Ukrainian radicals. How worried are you, first of all, that you may be in serious danger by having your information added to the site?
I'm, as you may know, I'm residing in Russia, so I feel a certain degree of safety, at least being here. Were I living in Canada, where I grew up and where I am a citizen of that country, I would be more worried because I think it's pretty well known by now that the Canadian government has a very close relationship with Ukraine and with the Nazi battalions within Ukraine, funding Ukrainian military endeavors up to $1 billion, I believe. And Chrystia Freeland, our deputy prime minister, her grandfather was a Nazi collaborator, and that is open information by this point. And in, I believe it's in Western Canada, there is a fairly significant faction of ultra that the Canadian government has a very close relationship with Ukraine and with the Nazi battalions within Ukraine, funding Ukrainian military endeavors up to $1 billion.
Okay, yeah, so that's one of the things I've talked about on this channel before. Like, there's even an article out there about Ukraine, even Israel, like Israel's own people and their parliament was calling out the government for sorry about that, guys, for sending aid to these Nazis. Like, Israel was aiding the Azov battalion, and like their government was like, yo, look, we're killing Palestinians. That's one thing, but we can't align with these niggas. What the fuck wrong with y'all? So like all of these governments, whether it's France, Canada, anybody that's NATO affiliated. I haven't heard too much about Turkey. I have to look into Turkey. I wouldn't be surprised though. Turkey has helped Al Qaeda and ISIS and all these jihadi groups help overthrow Syria, so I wouldn't be surprised. But those countries definitely. So 100%. Like, I'm glad she's talking about that, because it's like Canada. We think Canada, it's one of these peaceful countries, and just because they're so pussified by the United States, but nah, man, they've been funding these Azov and these other Nazi militias in Ukraine. So,
I believe. And Chrystia Freeland, our deputy prime minister, her grandfather was a Nazi collaborator, and that is open information by this point. And in, I believe it's in Western Canada, there is a fairly significant faction of ultra-nationalist Ukrainian supporters. So were I in Canada, I would be quite worried about my well-being.
So think about that. One of the arguments I hear all the time, whenever I bring up the Nazis in Ukraine, well, there's Nazis in Russia. Why don't you ever talk about the Nazis in Russia? Because the Nazis in Russia don't run the government, you dumb fuck. But think about that. You have a Canadian citizen here saying she feels more safer in Russia than she does in her own fucking country she was born and raised in. Think about that. Think about that. Now you'll have people say, "Well, she's a Russian puppet, a propagandist, whoop-de whoa, what da da da, all that bullshit." Nah, I can tell you, Eva Bartlett's one of the real ones. She'll call out the Russian government if it comes down to it. Eva Bartlett's one of the real ones, and it's like it's just crazy to fathom that and think about that. That here you have a Canadian citizen that says she feels more safer in Russia, doing her journalism about these Nazi regimes in Ukraine than she does, or these Nazi militias in Ukraine. I'm sorry about that. She feels more safer in Russia than she does in her own fucking country. What does that say about these countries, where they say, freedom and democracy and, we're for freedom of speech and all that whoop de woo? Clearly you're not, because this fucking journalist is saying she feels more safe in a country where you guys say there's no freedom of speech and so much repression, blah, blah, blah. It's crazy to think about that.
Because I don't believe for a moment that the Canadian government would protect me from any of these ultranationalist extremist types that would seek to harm me because they see me as a threat to their country. But I have to note, you did mention that Canadian media by and large haven't been talking about this. Now, I have two things to say about that. One, some independent journalists of Maverick Media did reach out to me a week ago, and they were quite concerned. They take this issue very seriously, the fact that a Canadian citizen is on effectively a kill list. And so they did interview me, and they said in the context of the interview that they would be reaching out to Canadian media, and I believe starting a petition. And they did inquire if I was going to reach out to the Canadian embassy in Kiev, to which I said, essentially there's no point. I already know where I stand with the Canadian government. If I may, just briefly, in 2009 or 10, when I was living in Gaza and accompanying Palestinian farmers on farmland, we came under intense Israeli live fire for up to 40 minutes. And the Canadian representatives in Tel Aviv were informed about the fact that a Canadian unarmed citizen.
So that's one of the things I like about her too. She actually goes and lives amongst the people, like the working class there and things like that. That's one of the things I've always loved about, hearing from her journalism, is that she's there amongst the people. She's not, I think that's a different type of journalism that you're getting, because you're getting somebody who's there actively with the real people who have to live through this shit. So that's one of the things I've always appreciated and loved about Eva's journalism. So I'm glad she highlighted that, because she's basically saying that, like, actually, I'll let her finish here because she didn't
being
wrap
fired
it up.
at by Israeli forces. And when they learned that I was being fired at by Israelis and not Palestinians, they told me, you have to accept that this is Israel's security measures. And I made it very clear to them.
So there she is saying, like, why would I even call the government about this, my government about this? Because they basically told me to fuck off when it came to Israel. You think they're going to say anything about their prized cow now, which is fucking Ukraine? No. What's the point? So I'm like, that's so insane to me. Here you have a journalist who's actually doing journalism. She's not sitting in some air-conditioned fucking studio, talking out their ass, reading fucking bullshit State Department talking points. She's actually on the ground with these people, talking to real people that are there. And it's like her own government, who claims to be this beacon of freedom and democracy and, free speech and things like that, aren't even protecting her and from the Israelis. And now, like, she knows they're not going to protect her from the Ukrainians. So she's like, fuck it. There's no point. That's sad. That is so fucking sad, bro.
That I was in no way a threat to Israel. I was not in the Israeli imposed what they call a no-go zone on Palestinian land. We were far out of that 300-meter zone, and nonetheless we were being fired at. And the Canadian representative, Jordy Elms, told me basically I had to deal with Israel's security measures. So for that reason, I don't believe that Canada would ever support me. But I do just want to say very quickly, a CBC journalist has been trying to reach out to me, saying that he would like to interview me on my work in the Donbass and on my participation in an international tribunal on Ukrainian war crimes in Moscow in early April, I think it was. Now, what I'd like to say about that is I don't believe for a moment CBC would ever give me a fair hearing on their platform. They are Canadian state-funded media. They do the bidding of the Canadian government and the corporate interest. But also, I think the only way that this gentleman could have found out that I had participated in this tribunal, because I did not share it on any of my social media platforms, is that he saw the kill list, the Ukrainian hit list entry on me, which does specify my participation on that panel. So what I'd like to point out is he did not at one point in his email mention, he's appalled by the fact that I'm listed on this kill list. He didn't say anything about it, but clearly he's seen it. That's the only way in my mind that he could have been aware of.
Sorry about that, guys. It's not even playing. Hang on one second. Sorry about that, guys. Technology be tripping sometimes. Let me play that last part. I don't know if I got it for you, if y'all heard it, but I'm just gonna play it again just to make sure. But here, like,
In this tribunal, because I did not share it on any of my social media platforms, is that he saw the kill list, the Ukrainian hit list entry on me, which does specify my participation on that panel. So what I'd like to point out is he did not at one point in his email mention, he's appalled by the fact that I'm listed on this kill list. He didn't say anything about it, but clearly he's seen it. That's the only way in my mind that he could have been aware of my participation in this tribunal. So CBC is whitewashing Ukraine's kill list, and instead.
So that's important there. So basically what she's saying is, like, she didn't, like, and she just said it, but I'm just, giving my take on it. She didn't tweet this out that she was part of this panel talking about Ukrainian war crimes. No, like, the only way this guy could have known that she was part of this panel is that information that she was part of this panel was listed on this Ukrainian journalist kill list. So it's very fascinating. So that's what she's saying. And again, I'm taking her word for it. You guys, do your own research, see how you feel about it. I'm taking her word for it because Eva Bartlett, like I said, she is a real one. She's been at the forefront of the Syria issue. She's been at the forefront of the Gaza issue. Like, she's an amazing fucking journalist. She's even had critiques of people that I like Gray Zone. She's had critiques of Aaron Mate, I believe, Max Blumenthal as well. So Eva Bartlett is a real one. She is a person of conviction, is what basically the point I'm trying to get across. She doesn't come across to me, based upon her past work and everything she's done, as a liar. So what she, in her mind, which I trust, or not even her mind, but from what she's gathered, is that the only way you could have fucking known about this is if you read that kill list, because that information is on that fucking kill list. And what that says is, like she just said, is that the Western media is whitewashing this. Either they're not covering it, or they know about it and are, like, choosing to ignore it flat out, or they're calling it a conspiracy theory or whatever the fuck. Russian propaganda, whatever. Russian disinformation, like Hunter Biden's laptop, where he's balancing M&Ms on his dick. But regardless, so here you have a journalist, her life being threatened by a Ukrainian government, where they say this government is, free and democratic bullshit. But she's being targeted for doing her job as a journalist. And another journalistic outlet knows about it. They're asking her questions based upon information they got from that kill list. They know about it because, as she's saying, the only way I participated in that tribunal is from that kill list, which is part of the reason why they want to kill me, is because I had information and testified based upon that information I had. But the only way you could have gotten it was from that kill list, and you're aware of it, and you're choosing not to report about that. You're choosing to whitewash it because you're a fucking propagandist. That is insanity to me. That is peak. You're like, I always knew the United States, they don't really mean it when they say they're a free speech country. Neither does Canada. I don't know about Canada's free speech laws and things like that, because I know about the whole thing that went down with Jordan Peterson. But again, to me, that's a culture war issue to distract from the actual real free speech stuff. Because I got to talk about, you have people like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder here in America who talk about free speech, but they don't say a fucking word about Julian Assange at all. They never say anything about him. So I would see Jordan Peterson being the same type of thing, a distraction, a culture war issue to distract you from the actual free speech issues going on, with cases like Assange and Mobia Abul Jamal, people like that. But regardless, that's complete insanity. So let's go ahead and get back into what she has to say. Eva Bartlett, Eva Bartlett, like I said, Eva Bartlett is dope. I would love to have her on the show.
Seeking to inflame the fact that I participated in a panel that rightly calls out Ukraine's war crimes against the people of the Donbass.
Well, Eva, it's probably worth pointing out to our viewers, maybe giving some background on it. Sites like Miro Tvorets, the purpose they claim to fulfill. Can you expand on that? Indeed, a big question about whether these sites should be allowed to operate at all.
Yeah, and so basically I wrote about, I'm just going to, pardon me, look at an article I wrote last year. And so there have been journalists whose names were listed. These were Ukrainian journalists, Oles Buzina. All his personal details, including his home address, were posted on the website. And I'm not sure, at some point after that, he was assassinated. And he's not the only journalist and person listed on the site that have been killed or disappeared. And, the Ukrainian authorities are well aware of the site. It was at least at the time in 2014 when it was created, the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Anton Gerashenko, was apparently one of the people behind the creation of the site. And at some point in 2015, a commissioner for human rights, Valeria Lutkovskaya, was trying to have the site shut down, and she was threatened with her own, losing her own work, and also told by this Gerashenko that you can't, essentially you can't interfere with the priority, the prerogatives of the safety of the state of Ukraine. Zelensky is also aware of it, and then the irony is that he basically said he did not want to interfere with media and journalism. Now that's extremely ironic, because that's precisely the goal of the site.
Well,
is to
on that very point, Eva, will your work and reporting be affected by your addition to that site?
No, look, I can't live in fear. I won't live in fear. I will take precautions, of course, when I'm reporting, but this is the thing. They want to prevent people from, they want to scare people from continuing to report. And that's not going to work with me, just like the smears that have been launched against me since late 2016. The intent with those smears is also to discredit my name and to frighten me into not speaking or writing. And that simply won't work. I won't live in fear.
Eva, thank you very much for coming on the program and sharing your concerns.
So, like I said, Eva Bartlett's a real one, bro. So you heard it right there. This isn't going to affect her reporting. She's going to continue to report these things, and as she should, man. And I'm going to do my best to cover it more on this channel, because I know I haven't been covering Ukraine as much as I did at the start of the war. I think I'm going to be talking about that more, because I think it's very important, especially given that we're sacrificing our economic livelihood, for this fucking country that's led by a Nazi regime that's cracking down on journalists and even, targeting them for assassination, all types of crazy shit. So, again, this is a very important story, because these are same way they talk about Israel. Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, whereas you just had Israel literally shoot a fucking journalist. They shot Shireen. What is her name? Shireen. I'm sorry, I want to get her name right. I'm about to Google her name real quick. Shireen Abu Akleh. They shot her fucking face off in Syria. I mean, not Syria. I'm tripping. In Israel, they shot her fucking face. They shot her in the face. They shot her fucking face off. She was wearing a press vest that was clearly marked that she was press, and they still shot and killed her. Okay. And they say Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. We know how they treat the Palestinians as a whole. She was a Palestinian journalist as well, but she had an American passport. She was an American citizen. So, again, these countries like Ukraine, Israel, all these fucking client states that they say, oh, these are only democracies in our region, is fucking horseshit and it's bullshit. And the United States, look, I'm sorry to be crass. They can suck my dick with that shit, okay? The United States can suck my dick. You guys are full of shit. We all know you are, and we fucking see you. And now we see you. And they go after journalists like Eva Bartlett because they reveal their fucking bullshit. Whether it's Syria, whether it's Now Ukraine, whether it's with COVID, a lot of people are scared to talk about COVID. Eva Bartlett has been exposing the fuck shit that's been going on with COVID. It's like insane. They call her anti. She's an anti-vaxxer. You can't listen to her. Why? Because she's pointing out clinical studies about how maybe we shouldn't be vaccinating the whole public. It's kind of bullshit with this bullshit ass COVID vaccine. YouTube can pull my stream down. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna keep it a bean. So yeah, Eva Bartlett, follow her work on COVID as well. She does great work on COVID. Eva Bartlett does great work when it comes to Syria. Eva Bartlett does great work when it comes to Ukraine as well. So go check out her work. Go to Telegram, follow her on Twitter, all that shit. I linked her Telegram down below. So go check it out. It's the Reality Theories one. So go check it out. So that is going to bring that segment to an end.